This is again some more work with William Nease's prototype Canadian machete, which is again just a shortened actual sword that was broken in extremely abusive testing by the maker. So it was cut down into this rather useful little blade. What I'm experimenting with now, as I do when I get any new blade, is I'm playing around still with different grips. And what I'm really liking about a lot of blades that have similar features to this is that when you get a handle that allows you to use very different grips, the utility of the knife basically explodes. So with this one, what happens is when I chop out through the tip, you want to get speed, because that's what the tip actually cuts with, speed. So when I'm doing that, I'm rotating the knife way back in my hand, and that's the grip that I showed earlier. And then as I bring the knife around, I snap my hand close together, and that snaps the tip around really fast. So I get a lot of speed, it allows me to work out through the tip. But then when I switch, because that can get fatiguing on the wrist, the hands, and the fingers. And you also, of course, don't want to just use the tip and the upper, say, third of the blade and put all the wear there. I mean, you got the rest of the edge, it's fully sharpened. So then I can switch to a slower chop, like on wood like this, and a heavier chop. And then you want to move back on the blade. And as you start to move back on the blade, you're going to be doing a more power-based, more of a straight push cut. So you're not going to be snapping or rotating the blade around. You're going to be maintaining a fairly full grip on the blade and just bringing it up and bringing it down, again with a rather push-based chop, not really a snap cut. Completely different grip, completely different fatigue in terms of how it affects different muscle groups, and switching back and forth between them not only allows you to put wear evenly all over the blade, but keeps your efficiency and fatigue rate relatively functional, because as soon as your wrist gets a bit tired, you switch to the other chopping motion. That starts to put the drain on your shoulder and your upper arm and mostly your forearm. When they start to get a bit tired, bam, go back to start working with the tip again, and it spaces out the wear completely evenly, both on you and on the knife. At about this point, I start getting a bit curious about the benchmark of the knife. I think I have a decent idea of where the performance is. Nice cat-like reflexes there. And one of the nice things, that's a dirty piece of wood, man. One of the nice things about stock lumber, and I have a pile of these old 2x2s, is that since I can cut the same wood, or nearly identically, with different knives, I just want to crack this now and show how close to a full cut. So you can see about 4/5 of the way through maybe. And I'm pretty sure with a decent cut I can do this in one hit. There's a knot right on the other section of that, spalled me out completely. Decently clear section on the other side. Bam, there you go. So this knife is definitely up there in the Scala request. It may be a little bit behind. Now, this is normally what I do when I'm not playing around in the backyard chopping up scrap lumber. So there's a lot of areas that I know that are going to be clear cut for building. And there's a lot of potential there if you like doing blade work. It's relatively difficult to get in and around these areas with a chainsaw to fell a lot of these trees. But when you clip all these branches off, well then it gets much nicer, much easier to move around. So I spend a fair amount of time doing this, again on areas I know that are going to be clear cut anyway. And even when it's not, you clear up a lot of these areas, it gets new growth going, and I clean up a lot of the deadfall. You can see on the ground there's a lot of old trees. I clean up them, cut all the limbs off, pile them up, and sometimes come back and collect them up later. As gnarly as they are, there's still lots of good burning in trees like that. And that's sort of the main functional use I have for a lot of the large knives I get, and I enjoy this type of work. This, of course, is heavily sped up. I don't move this fast, but it's not massively exciting to watch like 30 minutes to an hour of this work going on. But like I said, it is fun if you like being in the outdoors, and especially like using larger blades. One of the nice things that is useful on a blade like this is to have a sharpened swedge on the backside. Some of this wood is quite gnarly. It has a very small diameter, so the pressures are very high, and since it's in a low light area, a lot of the limbs are dead and they'll just crack off. So cutting them tends to be not tremendously useful because they'll just break some more than cut. And a sharpened swedge on the back allows you to actually crack them off. And I was fooling around here with the case, and it ended up being useful. I think next time I'll take one of the reaping hooks that I have. It's very nice for moving the branches out of the way and getting cleaner cuts. But a swedge is relatively nice here. Rounded spines are actually a detriment because it's very difficult to use them to break off the dead limbs because they tend to glance off or impact. For most of this work, I'm still cutting rather light for two reasons. Number one, I still haven't done a massive amount of use with this blade. The edge is on the limit of where durability and cutting ability start to have some significant transitions. It's around 25 thousandths thick. That's usually easily durable enough for most woods, but it can get you into a bit of trouble with very hard small diameter woods or very, very bad nuts. But it tends to make a really bad cut and really hard wood to make it be an issue. The other thing is, though, this is a chisel ground blade, and chisel ground blades produce asymmetric forces, which means that instead of getting a compressive force acting against the blade, which steel resists very, very well, it can easily make the blade turn, which will make it a lateral force. And, well, they don't resist that nearly as well, and that can cause ripples in the edge. So I'm probably not going to go really, really hard with this until I make the edge a bit more symmetric. One of the other reasons that I made this video is that I've been experimenting with a new sharpening technique lately. And it's kind of interesting, especially maybe a bit ironic. I won't actually reveal what it is here. That's one of the points of the video, is to see if you can actually figure out what way the knife was sharpened to maximize the edge retention in this type of work. And I'm just going to demonstrate that rather briefly at the end. Now, anyone who's done a bit of ninja work on paper can realize there's a few tricks that I'm utilizing here to make this performance seem a lot more impressive than it actually is. If you look rather carefully, you might be able to figure out exactly what I'm doing. But anyway, the sharpness is, you know, definitely decent. So again, the challenge is to figure out what way I'm actually sharpening the blade in order to achieve this type of edge retention.